All right, folks, I need you to stop what you're doing and pay very close attention to what I'm about to say, because what I'm about to tell you, it's not a drill. It's not a movie. This isn't science fiction. No, it's as real as it gets. Now, imagine waking up one morning, stepping outside, and seeing what looks like God, Jesus Christ in the sky, telling you to obey his commands. Imagine hearing a voice in your head that aren't your thoughts. It's them. It's the elites. It's the globalists putting these thoughts in your head. It's the people behind the curtain that are pulling the screens using technology to fake the second coming of Jesus Christ. It might sound like a fictional tale. It might sound crazy, but it's not, because this is what we call Project Bluebeam. Project Bluebeam. We're going to read this whole book in a second. It's not very long. It's like 30 pages or something. We're going to read all of it. And you might find it pretty interesting what's in here. So stick with me here, folks. So what I just described is what Project Bluebeam is all about. This is the end game, everybody. And they're getting ready to flip the switch, according to some people. Now, that's up for debate, and we can talk about that a little bit too. But we're going to open up the book and see exactly what's inside. But first, we're going to talk about it because it came out in the early 1990s. A guy named Sergei Monast, he was a journalist in Canada. He wrote this book. He called it Project Bluebeam. He said he had insider information from NASA and the United Nations that connected all these dots, and he found some plans that they were actually trying to do this thing. And they had it planned for a time when basically they're going to unite the countries and the religions of the world to create a new world government, a new world order, a new world religion. Believe it or not, that's up to you. Some people discount this book, saying he made all of it up. Whether he made it all up or not, we can't really know. But what we can do is read the book and see if there's anything in there that makes sense. All right. So according to him, NASA and the United Nations started cooking up this plan, this major plan to take over the world. And how? Well, basically by faking a spiritual event so big, so real looking, that people would just give up everything, basically give up their whole lives and go along with it. All right. And what am I talking about here? Well, we're talking about giant holograms in the sky. I know it sounds crazy, but the technology does exist. So picture this. Jesus comes back. He's in the sky. He shows up in one section of the world, and then in another section of the world, Muhammad shows up, and then Buddha in the other section. And all of these figures, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and all these other figures are basically telling the world to unite under a one ruler, under one world religion, because everything they knew about their own religion was misinterpreted, was fake, was a scam. And now this new religion will unite the people of the world under one government, under one religion. And it's not just visuals, guys, that they're using. They have technology to basically beam these voices directly into your head. I know it sounds crazy, and we'll get into the book in just a second, but the technology is there, okay? And the plan is to make people hear things that aren't there and to make them believe that it is God speaking to them directly. So if you believe God is speaking to you directly, audibly, you're going to listen to that. And especially if you have no frame of reference for what the voice is, you believe it's God and it's telling you it's God. Most people, okay, I'm not saying you watching because you're probably smarter than that, but most people are going to stop what they're doing and they're going to listen to that voice and they're going to follow it. However, we know that if we hear something or somebody says something that is counter to the word of God, counter to the Bible, well, then we know it comes from an evil spirit. We know it comes from the other side, and we know not to listen to it, because all things must be compared with Scripture, okay? All spirits must be tested with the name of Jesus Christ. If something comes to you and says, hey, I'm this or I'm that, listen to me, follow me, you say, well, who do you say Jesus Christ is? And if it's anything other than what is written in Scripture, you know that is totally wrong. It's totally wrong. It's totally false, and you should not listen to it. So Project Bluebeam has 4 steps. The first step, let's just real quick, we'll just go over it, and then we're going to read the book. The first step, they're going to mess with the religion. All the religions, not just Christianity. They want to shake the foundation of all the world's religions. How? Well, they're going to reveal fake earthquakes. Well, they're going to create earthquakes, and they're going to reveal these new discoveries, pretty much, these new archaeological discoveries and, these things are going to appear out of nowhere that are going to tell people that the Bible that they know is wrong. Here's the new Bible. Everything they know is wrong. Now you have to believe this new thing because this new discovery disproves everything that you've once believed, okay? And that's where they're going with this. And then they're also going to do a massive 3D hologram sky show, basically projected from satellites all over the world, are going to show these massive displays of whatever religious leader you want in the sky. And then along with those displays, the ELF frequencies are going to tell you to drop your guard and obey. Mind control frequencies using signals like ELF waves will send messages right to your brain, making you think God is talking to you, right? But it's them. And we know that this technology exists. Whether or not they can use it in this manner and to this extent is up for debate. But the technology is there, and that's not up for debate. So what they want to do basically is they want to create chaos. They want to fake these supernatural events. They want to make it look like an alien invasion, that all cities around the world are being invaded by UFOs. They're going to put fake UFOs in the air, according to this book, Project Bluebeam. And they're going to fake a rapture using this technology. And they're going to try and scare people enough that they're not only going to fall in line and listen to what they're told, but they're going to beg, they're going to plead, and they're going to ask with desperation for a one world government, for a one world religion, and to get rid of these old ways of humanity. And they want to usher in this new age of humanity, okay? And the ultimate purpose of this is so that the government can save you, right? It's, game over because the government's got your back. And once you give up your freedom for control, well, then game over, right? They control everything. You're under their control at this point. So you might be asking, this sounds crazy, but why does it matter? I don't believe any of this. I know. I get it. It does sound crazy, but the tech is real, okay? There's a lot of real things that are really not widely known that do exist. And we all know about the crazy technology that's rolling out. I've made videos on this mind control technology, ELF waves, all these things. These are all old news. They've been doing this, since the 70s and the 80s. And the hologram stuff, yeah, that's actually true too. There's a paper written by BYU, I believe, the Brigham Young University, that basically proves that they achieved these lifelike holograms that people don't even know where it's coming from. Now, I'll try and find the paper, and if I can find it, I will link it in the, I'll put it right here in the video so you can see. But, have you seen the tech that they're rolling out lately? The AI stuff, all this new stuff that's coming out. And considering this book was written in the 90s, I think it's very, suspicious, if you ask me. So, holograms that can talk, I don't know. AI that sounds human? Yeah, absolutely. 5G towers everywhere? Yeah, that's true, right? There's high-speed internet. There's satellites that give you high-speed internet all over the world, right? Elon Musk's Starlink, for example, right? That's satellite systems that will give you internet anywhere, okay? So technically these systems are, they're available, they're in play. Whether or not they will be used for Project Bluebeam, like I said, is up for debate. So it's really not conspiracy, the technology aspect of it. What is conspiracy is the plans and the potential use for this. So, we're going to read the book and then we can discuss it a little further. We know they got the tools, and it just seems like they need a perfect crisis to roll it out. We've seen this before, folks. We've seen it. It's nothing new. It's the Hegelian dialectic. It's problem, reaction, solution. They want to make a problem so that people panic. And then who swoops in with the solution? Well, it's the government. It's the New World Order. It's the one world religion. The problem is the things happening in the sky, right? All these things, these supernatural events that have been faked. And the solution? Well, it's a global dictatorship. A global dictatorship that will save you from these terrible things that are happening. Let's pick up the book now and we'll start reading. So here it is. Project Bluebeam by Sergei Monast. Introduction. The infamous NASA Bluebeam project has 4 different steps in order to implement the New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head. We must remember that the New Age religion is the very foundation for the New World government, without which religion the dictatorship of the New World Order is completely impossible. And I'll repeat that. Without a universal belief in a New Age religion, the success of the New World Order will be impossible. That is why Project Bluebeam is so important to them, but has been so well hidden until now. First step: engineered earthquakes and hoaxed discoveries. The first step in the NASA Bluebeam project concerns the breakdown, reevaluation of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with the setup, with artificially created earthquakes at certain precise locations around the planet, and of supposedly new discoveries, which will finally explain to all the people the error of all the fundamental religious doctrines. The falsification of this information will be used to make the nations believe that the religious doctrines have been misunderstood for centuries and misinterpreted. Psychological preparations for that first step have already been implemented with the film 2001: A Space Odyssey, the Star Trek series, Independence Day, and others, all of which deal with alien invasions from space and the coming together of all nations to repel the invaders. The last film's Jurassic Park deals with the theories of evolution and the claim that God's word are lies. Hoax discoveries. Why is it important to understand the first step? Is that those earthquakes will hit different parts of the world where scientific and archaeological teachings have indicated that arcane mysteries have been buried. By those types of earthquakes, it will be possible for scientists to rediscover these arcane mysteries, which will be used to discredit all the fundamental religious doctrines in the world. This is the first preparation for the plan of humanity, because it is what they want to do is to destroy the beliefs of all Christians, all Muslims, and all other religions on the planet. To do that, they will need some false proof from the far past in order to prove all nations that the religions have been misinterpreted and misunderstood. So it sounds like they're going to be causing fake earthquakes at all these ancient archaeological sites like Göbekli Tepe and Sacsayhuaman in Peru and all these different places you see on ancient aliens and whatnot. The earthquakes will happen there, Skinwalker Ranch, and what are they going to find underneath it? Well, we've been speculating about this for a while. They're going to find technology. They're going to find UFOs. They're going to find discs. They're going to find ancient buried technology that was buried during the flood of Noah, and they're going to say, hey, guess what? This stuff proves that your religion is wrong. It proves the Bible wrong. It proves Christianity wrong. It proves whatever wrong, because how could it exist in your book when it doesn't talk about it? Well, it actually kind of does. You just kind of have to look a little bit deeper. So what is the second step? The second step will be the big space show in the sky. The second step in the NASA Bluebeam project involves a gigantic space show with three-dimensional optical holograms and sounds, laser projections of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to the predominating regional, national religious faith. This is God's voice, and it will be speaking in all languages. In order to understand that, we must first study various secret services and the research that they've done in the past 25 years. Such as the Soviets, they have perfected advanced computers and even exported them, and they fed them with minute physiological particulars based on their studies of the anatomy and electromechanical composition of the human body, and the studies of the electrical, chemical, biological properties of the human brains. These computers were fed with the languages of all human cultures and their meanings worldwide. The dialects of all cultures have been fed into the computer from satellite transmissions. They began to feed these computers with objective programs like the one for the new Messiah. It also seems that the New World Order and the people behind it will resort to methods to make people end their lives within the human society by allocating electronic wavelengths for every person in every society and culture to introduce thoughts of ending it all. So the person, if they don't comply with the dictates of the New World Order, they will use this technology on them. Basically saying they gather all this biometric data on people, right? And they're going to curate specific ELF waves to that specific person to make them go along. Let's say they don't believe what's happening or they're not going along with the plan. They're going to, use alternate methods to make them go along with the plan. There are two different aspects of step 2. The first is the quote-unquote space show. Where does the space show come from? The space show has holographic images that will be used in a simulation of the ending, during which all nations will be shown scenes that will be the fulfillment of that which they desire to verify the prophecies and adversarial events. These will be projected from satellites onto the sodium layer above about 60 miles above the Earth. We will see tests every once in a while, and these are the so-called UFOs and flying saucer sightings. So what he's saying is the satellites are projecting these images onto the sodium layer from space onto the Earth from satellites, right? And this is what UFOs are, is what he's saying. Now, there might be some truth to that, but you can't say that all UFOs are just holograms. Some of them, sure, maybe. And in this scenario, where they're causing mass panic, projecting UFO invasions all over the world, yeah, maybe. But as far as every single UFO sighting being this, I really don't believe that. But let's continue reading. The result of these deliberately staged events will be to show the world the new Christ, the Antichrist, the new Messiah, the Maitreya, for the immediate implementation of the new world religion. Enough truth will be foisted upon the unsuspecting world to hook them into the lie. Even the most learned people will be deceived. The project has perfected the ability for some devices that people refer to as tractor beams to lift up enormous numbers of people as in a rapture, and whisk entire groups of people into Never Never Land. We see tests of this device in the abductions of humans by those mysterious little gray aliens who snatch people out of their beds through their windows into waiting motherships. The calculated resistance to the universal religion and the new Messiah and the ensuing holy wars will result in the loss of human life on a scale never imagined before in all of human history. The Bluebeam Project will pretend to be the universal fulfillment of the prophecies of old, as major an event as that which occurred 2,000 years ago. I think he's talking about Jesus Christ. So they're going to be faking the return of Jesus Christ. In principle, it will make use of the skies as a movie screen on the sodium layer about 60 miles up, as space-based laser-generating satellites project simultaneous images to the four corners of the planet in every language and every dialect according to the region. It deals with the religious aspects of the New World Order and its deception and seduction on a massive scale. Computers will coordinate with the satellite software already in place, and they will run the sky show. Holographic images are based on nearly identical signals combining to produce an image or hologram with deep perspective to ELF, VLF, and LF waves and optical phenomenon. Specifically, the show will consist of multiple holographic images to different parts of the world, each receiving a different satellite, each according to the specific national or regional religion. Not a single area will be excluded, with computer animation and sounds appearing to emanate from the very depths of space. Astonished ardent followers of various creeds will witness their own messiahs return with lifelike reality. It kind of reminds me of the those strange sounds from the sky. Remember that from 2012? All those trumpet sounds people were hearing coming from space, basically coming from the sky. All these strange trumpet sounds, and there was never any explanation to it. Kind of sounds like that, but there was no visuals with the strange sounds. It was just the sounds. But this is saying that they can use visuals and sounds together to produce the desired effect. So pretty interesting. It goes on to say the projections of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, etc. will merge into one after correct explanations of the great mysteries and revelations have been disclosed. This one God will in fact be the Antichrist, who will explain the various scriptures have been misunderstood and misinterpreted, and that religions of old are responsible for turning brother against brother and nation against nation. Therefore, old religions must be abolished to make way for the new age world religion, representing the one God Antichrist they see before them. Naturally, this stage falsification will result in dissolved social and religious disorder on a grand scale. Each nation blaming the other for the deception, setting loose millions of programmed religious fanatics through the demonic possession on a scale never witnessed before. In addition, this event will occur at a time of profound worldwide political anarchy during some worldwide catastrophe. The United Nations even plans now to use Beethoven's Song of Joy as the anthem for the introduction of the New World religion. If we put this space show in parallel with the Star Wars program, we get this. Combination of the electromagnetic radiation and hypnosis have also been the subject of intense research. In 1974, for instance, researcher G.F. Shapatis said in one of his research proposals that, quote, "In this investigation, it will be shown that the spoken words of the hypnotist may also be converted by electronic energy directly into the subconscious part of the human brain, without employing any mechanical device for receiving, transcoding, or understanding the message, and without the person exposed to such influence having a chance to control the information input consciously. It may be expected that rationalized behavior will be considered to have been taken out of their own free will," end quote. So apparently this researcher said that they'll be able to beam these things into people's heads. Then people won't even know where it's coming from. And it's not going to be, and it will be separated from their own free will. So they're not going to realize that it's going to be an outside, technology beaming into the head, making them think a certain way. They're going to think it emanates from within themselves, thus making them believe it's God. Interesting. Anyone investigating so-called channeling phenomenon right now would be wise to take this area of research into consideration. It will be noted that those who think of themselves as channelers has escalated rapidly since this type of research was conducted. It's uncanny how similar their messages are. Despite which entity they claim to have the source of divine guidance, it would suggest that any individual considering the credibility of channeled information should be discerning and critically evaluate where the messages they're receiving originates from, and if the messages are specifically beneficial to the New World Order. Oh, absolutely. All these channeled messages, they all say the same thing. They all say basically what this book is saying, that Jesus is wrong and that everybody is one and everybody needs to come together for a one world religion, one world government, one world spirituality, because our old ways are incorrect. That's all the channelers, they all say the same thing. And that's suspicious, if you ask. And that just proves everything, if you ask me. Because a lot of times when you bring up Jesus Christ to these channelers, they get scared because every knee will bow to the Lord. And even these channelers know that whatever spirit they're talking to is afraid of Jesus. That's why when you bring up Jesus to, psychics and people like that, they always freak out. They get scared because something inside of them, the spirit that's talking to them, starts to tremble. And they want to get out of there as fast as they can. That's why they don't like Jesus, because they are under his authority. So let's continue reading the book. The Sydney Morning Newspaper published an item on March 21st, 1983, which announced that the Soviets were invading the human mind, the article having been submitted to the foreign editor by Dr. Nathan Abujeni, assistant professor in the Facility of Agriculture in Asia. It's worth quoting the article at length, even though his grammar is a little odd. The article relates to the Soviets who created a supercomputer we were discussing earlier, and which is really important because these types of computers can be run through satellites and through space. The computers were fed with all sorts of different languages, their meaning, the dialect of the languages, and all the people were fed to the computers with objective programs. But we are no longer talking about the Soviets, we're talking about the United Nations, the minions of the New World Order, who are feeding these computers the necessary information. The editor of the column in which the article appeared even states that the piece made points too important to ignore. I think it's possible that the persons who have created this mega mind control program could sell the software to an organization and not even be aware that the client might just use the program and data to enslave all of mankind. Wow. Just imagine how far they had advanced since that article was published. Well, think about how far they'd advanced since this book was published, right? It's insane. The guy who wrote this book probably had no conception. He couldn't conceive of the technology that we're at now. He wouldn't even be able to understand what AI is and all these systems that are being put in place right now. Okay, because that the AI that we have now, all these things, all these tools that people use is nothing. The real AI, the ones that the governments are using, the ones that are still locked away on these servers somewhere, vastly outperform the ones that we have available to us, right? So, artificial thought and communication. The advancement of techniques propel us towards the third step in Bluebeam project that goes along with the telepathic and electronically augmented two-way communications where ELF, VLF and LF waves will reach each person from within his or her own mind, convincing them that their own God is speaking to them from the very depths of their soul. Such rays from satellites are fed from the memories of computers that have stored massive data about every human on Earth and their languages. The rays will then interlace with their natural thinking to form what we call diffused artificial thought. That kind of technology goes into the 1970s and the 1980s, as well as the 1990s, where research had been performed where the human brain had been compared to the computer. Information is fed in, it's processed, it's integrated, then a response is formulated and acted upon. The mind controllers manipulate this information in the same way that a computer for grammar manipulation manipulates information. In January 1991, the University of Arizona hosted a conference entitled the NATO Advanced Research Workshop on Current and Emergent Phenomena and Biomolecular Systems. What does that mean exactly? It means this. We refer to one paper that was delivered at the conference which stands out for its different attitude towards the development under discussion at that time. It was, in effect, a protest and a chilling warning to the attending scientists about the potential abuse of their research findings. Their findings, of course, stated that the United States has already developed communications equipment which can make the blind see, make the deaf hear, and make the lame walk. It can relieve the terminally ill from pain without the use of drugs or surgery. I'm not talking about science fiction. A man might retain his use of all his faculties right up until the moment of his death. This communications equipment depends on a completely new way of looking at the human brain and neuromuscular systems and radiation pulses at ultra-low frequencies. Some of this equipment is now operational within the CIA and the FBI. It will never be used to make the blind see, the deaf hear, and the lame walk because it is central to domestic political agenda and foreign policy of George Bush and his puppet masters of the New World Order. Domestically, the new communications equipment is being used to torture and murder people who match profiles imagined to be some sort of terrorist, to torture and murder citizens who belong to organizations or promote tolerance and peace and development in Central America, to torture and murder citizens who belong to organizations who oppose development and deployment of nuclear weapons, and to create a race of slave or what is called a Manchurian candidate. Overseas experimentations are taking place on hostages held by the United States and Canada, Great Britain, Australia, Germany, Finland, France. Additionally, there have been long series of bizarre ending of people's lives, self-removal, among British computer scientists, all of whom had some connection to the U.S. Navy. What is possible to ask before such a psychology of terror is this: would any government, corporation, or psychiatrist willfully promote such horror today? The answer is quite obviously yes. The government agencies and the corporations that work with them towards a new world order are prepared to promote anything that will help them achieve their objective goal of total social control. As for the question of why, for one thing, if you terrify the public and you make them fear for their safety, they will allow you to implement any draconian law, disarm them. Secondly, it promotes the decay of the present democratic forms of political systems and leads societies to search for an alternative method of political ideology. Of course, the alternative has already been planned. It's called the New World Order, and it will not have your safety or interests at heart. As George Bush said, read my lips. Fear has always been used by a powerful elite to control and subjugate the masses. The old maxim of divide and conquer is being played out to the limit worldwide to ensure that everybody is frightened for their personal safety, to be suspicious of everybody else. This, too, is mind control. Real quick. Yeah, that sounds like extreme. It sounds like it's happening to the extreme today. Everybody's divided. Everybody's conquered. We even have Christians fighting each other over, what the shape of the earth is. Christians fighting each other over, all these things, what the right denomination is. Oh, this is the right denomination. This is the right denomination. Everybody else is going to hell except for me. People are fighting over the dumbest things. The political divide has never been greater than it is right now. And, divide and conquer has worked. This country is divided. And I can't speak for the rest of the world, but from what I see, yeah, divide and conquer has absolutely worked. We have been conquered already. So they don't even need to implement these measures anymore. We've already been divided. We've already been conquered. But let's continue reading. To go further in this regard, the new technology, which is at the base of the NASA Bluebeam project, we have to consider this statement by psychologist James McConnell, which was published in the 1970s issue of Psychology Today. He said, quote, "The day has come when we can combine sensory deprivation with drug hypnosis and astute manipulation of reward and punishment to gain almost absolute control over an individual's behavior. It should be then possible to achieve a very rapid and highly effective type of positive brainwashing that would allow us to make dramatic changes in a person's behavior or personality," end quote. Think about that on a large scale. Is that what they're doing to us? Are they manipulating our behavior and personality through social media, through all these signals, these broadcasting waves? I don't know, through our cell phones, who knows? Seems like it though, right? When we talked before about that kind of ray in the telepathic and electronically augmented communication, the kind of rays that are fed from the memories of the computers which store massive data about humans, human language and dialects, and we said that people will be reached from within, making each person believe that his or her own God is speaking with them directly from within his or her own soul. We refer to that kind of technology and that kind of thinking in the same way that psychologist was espousing. That is, we should be trained from birth that we should all do what society wants us to do rather than what we want to do for ourselves. That's because we have the technology to do it. No one should now be allowed to have their own individual personality. This statement and these ideas are important because it is the basic teaching of the United Nations that no one owns his or her own personality. And now if you take that one step further and you look at what was being said by the WEF, how we will own nothing and be happy, it sounds like it's about the same thing. They're still pushing these boundaries farther and farther. The NASA Bluebeam project is the prime directive for the New World Order's absolute control over the populations of the entire Earth. I would suggest that you investigate this information carefully before dismissing it as fanatic lunacy. If we go further in the different reports we have presented, we find that mind control operations and technology include transmitters that broadcast at the same frequency as the human nervous system. The third step, telepathic electronic two-way communication. The third step in the NASA Bluebeam project is called the telepathic electronic two-way communication. Lieutenant Colonel John Alexander's article continues, quote, "If it is possible to feed artificial thought into the multigenic field via satellite, the mind control of the entire planet is now possible. An individual's only resistance would be to completely question the motivation behind his or her own thoughts and not act upon the thoughts which they consider to be outside their own ideological or religious and moral boundaries." Interesting. So he's saying if you have a thought or a feeling that is somehow outside your own moral boundaries, discount it because it's not coming from you. That makes sense. Once again, it is wise to consider how television, advertising, modern education, and various types of social pressure are used to manipulate those boundaries. It has been reported by Lieutenant Colonel Alexander, who said in a summary of his military review article, quote, "The information on those kinds of technologies presented here would be considered by some to be ridiculous since it does not conform to their view of reality. But some people still believe the world is flat." Now, this means a lot because if people do not believe this kind of technology is possible or that it's science fiction, those people put themselves in great jeopardy because on the night when those 1,000 stars will shine from space, during the night when the new Messiah will be presented to the world, they will not be prepared and will have no time to prepare to save themselves from that kind of technology. They don't believe it's true, so they won't take the time to prepare and they will fall victim to it. Fourth step, universal supernatural manifestations via electronics. The fourth step concerns the universal supernatural manifestations with electronic means. It contains 3 different orientations. One is to make mankind believe that an alien invasion is about to occur at every major city on Earth in order to provoke each major nation to use its nuclear weapons in order to strike back. This way, the United Nations Court will require that all those nations which launch nuclear weapons will have to be disarmed when the invasion is shown to be false. And how will the United Nations know that the invasion was false? Well, they staged it, of course. The second is to make Christians believe that the rapture is going to occur with the supposed divine intervention of alien off-world civilizations coming to rescue the Earthlings from savage and merciless demons. The goal is to dispose of all significant opposition to the implementation of the NWO in one major stroke. Actually, within hours of the beginning of the Sky Show. So they're going to put on the Sky Show, and within hours they're going to nuke the whole world, and then they're going to remove and fake rapture all the Christians. Interesting. So that there's not going to be any opposition to it. The third orientation in the fourth step is a mixture of electronic and supernatural forces. The waves used at the time will allow supernatural forces, quote unquote supernatural forces, to travel through optical fibers, coax cables, lasers, electrical equipment, phone lines in order to penetrate everyone at once through their major appliances. And now everybody's got the phones and everything on them. It seems like it would be easier to do if this were possible. Embedded chips will already be in place. Well, like what I was just saying with the phones, all the chips in the phones, who knows? The goal of this deals with the global satanic ghosts that will be projected all around the world in order to push all populations to the edge of hysteria and madness, to drown them in a wave of life-ending ideas and permanent psychological disorders. After the night of the 1,000 stars, worldwide populations will be ready for the new Messiah to reestablish order and peace at any cost, even at the cost of freedom. Phasing out cash and independence. The techniques used in the fourth step is exactly the same as the techniques used in the past to force people to accept certain ideas. The same techniques will be used by the United Nations to implement the New World Religion and the New World Order. A lot of people will ask when this is going to happen and how will they accomplish the visions of the night of 1,000 stars, and what are the events that will point to when these days begin. According to the many reports we have received, we believe it will begin with some kind of worldwide economic disaster. Not a complete crash, but enough to allow them to introduce a new kind of in-between currency. Before they introduce their electronic cash to replace all paper or plastic money, the in-between currency will be used to force anybody with savings to spend or turn in their cash because they understand that people will have money and the money won't be worth anything. So if everybody's broken and nobody has any money because the money's not worth anything anymore, well, how can anybody fund a war? All paper currency will cease to exist, and this is one of the first signs. But to implement this worldwide electronic money system, everybody in the world who might have money in the future will have to have a way to transfer money electronically. To prevent any kind of independence, the NWO will already implement microchips and tracking systems on wild animals and fish so that people won't be able to sustain themselves by hunting and fishing and gathering from the land. If they try, they will be tracked down by satellites and they will be hunted down and imprisoned. The NWO is already changing the laws of the nations to make everybody dependent on single food sources. They are changing laws about religion and psychiatric disorders in order to identify anybody who is potentially threatening to the NWO. Those who are found defective will be sent to the eradication camps, where their organs will be taken out and harvested to the highest bidders. Well, that doesn't sound nice. Those who are not killed will be used as slave labor and used in medical experiments. The goal of the dictatorship is to control everyone, everywhere on the planet, ruthlessly, without exception. That's why all this technology is being introduced everywhere. The technology for the control of the people is now being implemented. The technology of the 1940s and 50s was used to help the people and make an easier, productive life. This new technology is designed and built to track you, to track people, and to track down and control people everywhere. This technology is being manufactured for specific purposes, and to refuse to see and recognize that purpose, which is to enslave the entire populations of the world, is to deny the emergence of the Antichrist and the establishment of the New World Order, the one world religion and government. If you cannot see, you cannot learn. If you cannot understand, then you and your family and your friends might just succumb to the fires and the crematoria that have already been built in every state and every major city on earth, built to deal with you. Well, the end. That's it. So, interesting, huh? Project Bluebeam, what do you guys think about this? I mean, there's a lot of things that are plausible that make sense. We know a lot of the technology exists. All the steps, the technology is there, especially what he was saying about the end and the digital currencies. Well, we all know about that stuff. This is the only time in history in which a digital currency could replace everything in the world and make a one world currency digitally on blockchain, right? That's possible. But, I don't know, man. It's a interesting book. It really is. There's a lot of plausible ideas in here. So whether or not this guy got his ideas from some classified sources as he claims, or if he just made them up, I'm not sure. But this is the book, and I want to know what you think. So do you believe this book is true, or do you believe that this guy just made everything up? Please put it in the comment section below and, tell everybody your opinion. Let us know how you feel about this. And, if this is what we're seeing happening, are we seeing the preparations for this Project Bluebeam being put into play right now? Maybe that's what we were seeing with the whole drone thing in New Jersey last year. Remember that? That was insane. Some people say they were just projections. Now, if this was like some satellite projection thing, or partially that, partially real drones, what it did was it did cause some chaos. People were freaking out about it. It was national news. So imagine if they did this worldwide all at one time. You can really see how easily it would be to, control people and to make people believing into a certain narrative with just technology. So yeah, I want to thank you all for watching this video, and until next time, God bless you all.